The woman dying in his hands was the reason his life fell apart. 3 years ago, Alexandra Westbrook signed the papers that destroyed Ethan Reynolds, stripped him of his career, his marriage, everything. Tonight, rain hammering the bridge, her pulse fading beneath his fingers, he had one choice. Let her die or save the person who ruined him. His hands moved on instinct. The defibrillator charged, and in that split second, he made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Before we dive into this incredible story, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story like this. And comment below with your city or country so we can see how far this story travels around the world. Now let's begin. She's coding. Ethan's hands were already moving, compressions, hard and fast. 30 seconds in and the woman wasn't responding. Mike, I need that defib now. Rain hammered the crumpled Mercedes. Wind screamed through the broken windshield. The Woodrow Wilson Bridge was a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered glass. 5 cars, at least a dozen casualties, and this woman trapped in the driver's seat was seconds from becoming another statality. Charging! Mike shouted, fighting to get the equipment through the crushed doorframe. Ethan kept pumping, his shoulders burned. Water dripped from his hair into his eyes. The woman's face was gray. Blue lips, no pulse. Come on, he muttered. Don't you quit on me! The defibrillator shrieked its ready tone. Clear! The jolt arced through her body. The monitor stuttered, flatlined. Nothing, Mike said. Ethan, we got 3 more critical over there. Fire department needs us. Charge it again. Man, she's gone. I said charge it. Mike's jaw tightened, but he reset the machine. Ethan repositioned. The woman's designer blouse was torn. Diamond earrings caught the emergency lights. Rich, powerful. The kind of person who never thought death would come for them on a rainy Tuesday. Clear. Another shock. The monitor beeped. Once, twice, a rhythm. Got her, Mike breathed. Nice save. They worked fast. Backboard, C-collar, oxygen. Ethan's training took over his hands steady even as his heart pounded. 12 years doing this job. Hundreds of saves. This was just another patient, just another life. They lifted the stretcher. Mike grabbed the head. Ethan took the feet. The ambulance was 30 yards away through the rain, and Kay, a firefighter, directed them around a puddle of gasoline. Another EMT was performing CPR on someone in a Camry. Watch your step, Mike called. They loaded her into the ambulance. Mike climbed in, already reaching for the IV kit. Ethan slammed the doors and ran to the driver's seat. His uniform was soaked through, his hands were shaking. He started the engine, flipped the lights, reached for the radio. That's when he saw her face in the rearview mirror. The emergency lights flickered across her features. High cheekbones, that distinctive scar above her left eyebrow. He'd seen it up close once across a mahogany conference table when she'd looked him in the eye and called him a liar. Alexandra Westbrook. The steering wheel creaked under his grip. Ethan? Mike's voice crackled through the front partition. We moving or what? Ethan's foot found the gas pedal. The ambulance lurched forward. Sirens, lights, traffic parting ahead of them. In the mirror, Mike was checking her vitals, adjusting monitors, doing everything right. Vitals stabilizing, Mike called. Pressure's coming up. Looks like she's gonna make it. Ethan didn't answer. His mind was 3 years in the past. The boardroom had been all glass and chrome, 14 people sitting in leather chairs. Alexandra Westbrook at the head of the table in a gray suit that probably cost more than Ethan's car. Her chief financial officer Richard Bennett on her right, her lawyers flanking her left, and Ethan alone at the other end with a folder of evidence. Mr. Reynolds, Alexandra had said, her voice perfectly modulated. I've reviewed your concerns, we all have. Then you see the problem. Ethan had opened the folder. Spreadsheets, test results, email chains. These safety reports are falsified. The stress tests on the wing components don't match the actual materials being used. If these parts fail in flight... Mr. Reynolds? Bennett had interrupted, his smile cold. What you're describing would require a conspiracy involving multiple departments, vendors, and oversight committees. Does that sound plausible to you? I'm showing you the evidence. You're showing us discrepancies that have reasonable explanations. Bennett had slid his own folder across the table. What's concerning is that these same documents show signs of tampering. Digital signatures altered. Timestamps manipulated. Someone has been accessing restricted files without authorization. Ethan had felt the floor drop. I accessed those files because nobody would listen. You accessed classified company data, one of the lawyers had said. You violated your security clearance. You've been making accusations against respected vendors and colleagues. Because they're covering up safety violations. Alexandra had raised her hand. Silence fell. Mr. Reynolds, I appreciate your passion. I do. But passion without evidence is just noise. She gestured to Bennett's folder. The evidence here suggests you've been under considerable stress. Personal issues, financial pressures. Your supervisor noted erratic behavior in recent weeks. That's not... I think it's best if you take some time off, paid leave, get some rest. We'll conduct our own internal review. Ma'am, people are going to die. Alexandra had stood, meeting over. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Reynolds. We'll take it from here. 2 weeks later, he was fired. A month after that, his engineering license was suspended. Every company he applied to turned him down. Doors closed. Phones went unanswered. His name became poison. Sarah had tried to understand. She'd really tried, but understanding didn't pay the mortgage. Daddy needs to find work, she'd told 4-year-old Lily. We're going to stay with Grandma for a while. When's Daddy coming? Lily had asked. Soon, baby, soon. Except soon never came. Sarah met someone in Portland, someone stable, someone who could provide. The divorce papers arrived by FedEx. Ethan? Mike's voice snapped him back. Red light. Ethan slammed the brakes. The ambulance screeched to a stop inches from a crosswalk. A woman with a stroller glared at them. You good man? Mike asked through the partition. Yeah, I'm good. He wasn't good. Washington Memorial's emergency entrance was bright and busy. Ethan helped transfer Alexandra to the trauma team. Dr. Sarah Chen took charge barking orders. Nurses swarmed, the organized chaos of an ER in motion. Multiple contusions, possible internal bleeding head trauma. Chen said, her hands already examining Alexandra's pupils. Get her to CT stat. I want a full workup and call neuro. They wheeled Alexandra away. Ethan stood in the corridor, water still dripping from his uniform. His hands wouldn't stop shaking now. Hey. Mike appeared with coffee. Seriously, you okay? You've been off since we pulled her out. Just tired. You know her or something. You got weird when we loaded her. No, just another patient. Mike studied him. If you say so. He checked his watch. We're back on rotation in 5. The rest of the shift was a blur. A cardiac arrest in DuPont Circle. A stabbing in Columbia Heights. A teenager having an allergic reaction in Chinatown. Ethan performed, saved lives, did his job. But part of his mind never left that corridor. Never stopped seeing Alexandra's face under the oxygen mask. Dawn was breaking when he finally clocked out. The rain had stopped. The city looked washed clean, almost innocent in the early light. His car smelled like mildew and old coffee. Ethan sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes staring at nothing before starting the engine. The drive home took him past the Kennedy Center, the Lincoln Memorial neighborhoods he used to know when he had a real career. When he wore a tie to work instead of a uniform that stank of other people's blood. His apartment building was a 4-story walk-up in a neighborhood that was transitioning, which meant the rent was almost affordable if you didn't mind the occasional gunshot at night. 2 bedrooms, peeling paint, radiators that clanked like ghosts, but it was his and Lily's. Chen from downstairs was asleep in the armchair, her knitting in her lap. The TV played some morning show on mute. Lily was crashed on the couch in her dinosaur pajamas, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Mrs. Chen? Ethan said softly. She startled awake. Oh, Ethan. What time is it? Almost 7. Thank you so much. No trouble, we made cookies? Well, Lily made cookies. I mostly prevented fires. She gathered her things. She's a good girl. You're doing a good job. After she left, Ethan stood in the doorway watching his daughter sleep. 7 years old. Sarah's blonde hair, his stubborn chin. She had a Band-Aid on her knee and marker stains on her fingers. This was why he kept going. Why he worked double shifts. Why he didn't give up. He should sleep. He had another shift in 10 hours. Instead, he opened his laptop at the kitchen table. He typed Alexandra Westbrook. Pages of results, photos from conferences, articles about aerospace innovation, an interview in Forbes about breaking glass ceilings in a male-dominated industry, In every picture, she looked untouchable, powerful, in control, not like the woman dying in his ambulance. He scrolled deeper, found an article from 8 months ago. Westbrook Industries supplier investigated for safety violations. Ethan clicked. The article was brief. A parts supplier had been caught submitting falsified stress tests. The FAA had opened an investigation. Westbrook Industries had issued a statement promising full cooperation and a comprehensive internal review. The supplier's name made Ethan's stomach drop. Apex Manufacturing, the same company he'd flagged in his original report. The same vendor whose test results hadn't matched their materials specifications. He opened his old files, the ones he'd kept even though looking at them made him sick. 3 years of dust on this data, but there it was, Apex Manufacturing flagged for suspicious documentation. Test results that didn't align with industry standards. He'd been right. Ethan sat back, his coffee growing cold. What if it hadn't ended with him? What if the fraud was still happening? What if his phone buzzed? A text from an unknown number. Stop looking. You don't want this trouble again. Ethan stared at the screen. His heart kicked into overdrive. He checked the number. Blocked. He checked the timestamp. Sent 2 minutes ago. Someone was watching. He stood up fast, went to the window. The street was empty. Early morning, a few cars parked. Nobody visible. Another text. Think about your daughter. Ethan's blood turned to ice. He ran to Lily's room. She was still asleep, safe, her rabbit under one arm. He went to every window, checked the locks. His hands were shaking again, but this time not from exhaustion. Who was this? How did they know he was researching? Unless... He looked at his laptop, at the search results still glowing on the screen. Unless someone had been monitoring his online activity, waiting for him to start digging again. His phone rang. Ethan jumped. Unknown number, he answered. Who is this? Silence. Then a click. Ethan stood in his kitchen, his phone in one hand, his daughter sleeping in the next room, and felt the old fear come rushing back. The same fear he'd felt 3 years ago when his life started unraveling. When phone calls came at midnight, when he found his car tires slashed, when someone broke into his apartment and left nothing stolen but everything touched. They'd made him scared then, made him back down, made him go away. He'd thought it was over. Daddy? Lily was standing in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Ethan forced his face into something calm. Hey, Peanut, you're up early. I heard you walking around. Are we making pancakes? Despite everything, he smiled. Yeah, kiddo, we're making pancakes. They spent the morning together. Lily chattered about school, about her friend Emma's hamster, about the book they were reading. Normal kid stuff. Beautiful kid stuff? Ethan tried to focus, tried to be present, but part of his mind kept circling back to those texts, to the implications. After Lily finished her pancakes, he set her up with cartoons and told her he needed to rest. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his phone on the nightstand, waiting for another message. It didn't come. He managed 3 hours of sleep, got up, made Lily lunch, helped her with a school project about the solar system, read her 3 chapters of their book. Daddy, you keep checking your phone, she said at one point. Sorry, Peanut, work stuff. You work too hard. I work just enough to keep you in dinosaur pajamas. She giggled. Can we go to the park? Not today. How about a movie? They watched something animated about talking animals. Ethan barely registered the plot. His mind was racing. Someone didn't want him looking into Westbrook Industries. Someone with resources. Someone who could track his online searches in real time. That meant the conspiracy wasn't over, wasn't buried, was still active. Which meant Alexandra was either part of it or what? His phone rang at 1:47 p.m. Ethan checked the screen. Washington Memorial Hospital. Mr. Reynolds, this is Angela Hartley from Patient Services. Yes. I'm calling on behalf of one of our patients, Ms. Alexandra Westbrook. She's asking to speak with you. The room tilted. What? You were one of the EMTs who treated her. She'd like to thank you personally. Would you be willing to visit? Ethan's thoughts raced. This could be a trap. This could be part of whatever was happening. Or Alexandra didn't know. Wasn't part of it. When? He heard himself ask. This afternoon around 2:30, room 407. I have a shift at 6. This shouldn't take long. After he hung up, Ethan sat very still. Lily was absorbed in the movie. Outside, a siren wailed past. He called Mrs. Chen. She agreed to come up and watch Lily. "Are you going somewhere?" Lily asked when Mrs. Chen arrived. "Just for a little bit. Be good." "I'm always good." "Nice try, kiddo." The hospital felt different in daylight. Less desperate, more controlled. Ethan signed in, got a visitor badge, took the elevator to the 4th floor. His heart hammered. He'd rehearsed what to say, practiced his face. But as he walked down the corridor toward room 407, all those preparations evaporated. The door was half open. Ethan could hear a television inside, some news program. He raised his hand to knock, then he heard it. Through the door, a voice. "Ms. Westbrook, I need you to understand. You're being reckless, asking questions, making calls. This needs to stop." A man's voice, smooth, educated, threatening. Ethan froze. "I'm recovering from a car accident." Alexandra's voice, weaker but firm. "I'm allowed to make phone calls." "Not these calls, not to these people." "Richard, I don't answer to you. I'm still CEO." Richard Bennett, the CFO. "For now," Bennett said. "But your judgment has been questionable lately. The board is concerned. This obsession with reopening old investigations." "Someone tried to kill me." Silence. "That's paranoid, Alexandra." "My brake line was cut. The police found the tool marks." "The police found wear and tear. Your car was old. These things happen." "It was serviced 2 weeks ago." "Then perhaps you should be more careful who you trust." Bennett's voice dropped. "You're vulnerable right now, isolated, making enemies you don't need." "Are you threatening me, Richard?" "I'm protecting the company, which is what you should be doing instead of inviting former employees into your hospital room." "Yes, I know about Reynolds. I know he's coming. Don't do this." "Get out." "Alexandra." "Get out of my room, now." Footsteps. The door swung open. Richard Bennett nearly collided with Ethan. He was in his 50s, silver hair, expensive suit. His eyes narrowed when he saw Ethan's visitor badge. "You must be Reynolds." Bennett's smile didn't reach his eyes. "How convenient." "I was invited," Ethan said. "I'm sure you were." Bennett stepped closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I don't know what she told you. I don't know what she's promised. But walk away. For your daughter's sake." Ethan's blood turned to ice. "What did you say? Lily, isn't it 7 years old, attends Roosevelt Elementary, gets picked up by Mrs. Chen most days." Bennett's smile widened. "Pretty little thing. I'd hate for anything to happen. These city streets can be so dangerous." Ethan's fist clenched. Every instinct screamed to hit this man, to break that smile. "That's illegal," Ethan managed. "Threatening a child." "Did I threaten? I'm simply observing, making conversation." Bennett brushed past him. "Think carefully about your next move, Mr. Reynolds. Some battles aren't worth fighting." He walked away, his shoes clicking on the linoleum. Ethan stood in the corridor shaking. Not from fear, from rage. "Mr. Reynolds," Alexandra's voice from inside the room. Ethan forced himself to move, to step through the door. Alexandra was sitting up in bed, bandages on her forehead, her left arm in a sling. She looked exhausted and scared. Their eyes met. "You heard," she said. "Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't know he'd come. I didn't know he'd—" She stopped. "Your daughter. I'm so sorry." "Why did you ask me here?" Alexandra took a breath. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "Because 3 years ago you tried to warn me about a conspiracy. And I didn't listen. And it cost you everything. And now—" She gestured to her bandaged head. "Now I think someone just tried to kill me, and I think you're the only person who might know why." Ethan stared at her, at the woman who'd destroyed his life. "Tell me everything," he said. Alexandra gestured to the chair beside her bed. "Please, sit." Ethan didn't move. "I'll stand. Start talking." She nodded, understanding. 2 weeks ago, I started having doubts. Small things at first. Numbers that didn't quite add up in quarterly reports. Vendor contracts that seemed overpriced. I thought maybe I was being paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong. So you started digging. I requested files, old safety reports, the ones from your investigation 3 years ago. Richard told me they'd been archived, destroyed after the required retention period. Standard procedure. She paused. Except I found copies. In my predecessor's office files. My father's files. Ethan's jaw tightened. Ethan's jaw. He remembered her father. James Westbrook. The man who'd built the company from nothing. Dead 2 years now from a heart attack. What did you find? Your report. The original one you submitted. Not the altered version Richard showed me in that boardroom. Yours had documentation I'd never seen. Test results, email chains, proof that someone was systematically falsifying safety data. Her voice cracked. You were right. About everything. And I destroyed you for telling the truth. Why should I believe you now? Because I'm asking you to verify it yourself. I had the documents couriered to a safety deposit box at First National on K Street. Box 447. Here's the key. She pulled a small key from her bedside drawer. I'm the only one who knows it exists. Well, now you do too. Ethan stared at the key. This could be another setup. It could be, but Bennett just threatened your daughter. In my hospital room. Does that sound like someone who's confident in his position, or someone who's desperate? She had a point. If what you're saying is true, if there's real evidence, why come to me? Why not go to the FBI, the FAA? Because I don't know how deep this goes. I don't know who's compromised. Richard has friends in regulatory agencies, campaign donations, golf buddies, and key positions. Alexandra met his eyes. But you have no reason to lie. No reason to cover for anyone. You're the only person I can trust. Trust? Ethan laughed bitterly. 3 years ago, you called me a liar in front of 14 people. You signed the papers that blacklisted me. My wife left. My daughter asks why we can't afford things her friends have, and now you want me to trust you. No. Alexandra's voice was quiet. I want you to trust yourself. Trust what you found 3 years ago. Help me prove it was real, not for me. For everyone who's going to fly on planes with those faulty parts. Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen. Lily asking when you'll be home. He looked at the key in Alexandra's hand. Thought about Bennett's smile, about Lily skipping ahead on the sidewalk, about lives he could save or fail to save. If I do this, he said slowly, we do it my way. Total transparency. Everything we find goes to the authorities. No company spin, no management, just truth. Agreed. And you guarantee my daughter's safety. I don't care what it costs. Security, protection, whatever it takes. Done. I'll have a team assigned within the hour. Ethan took the key. It felt heavier than it should. One more thing, he said. Why now? Why did you suddenly start questioning things after 2 years? Alexandra's face darkened. Because 3 weeks ago I got an anonymous email. Just 3 words, James knew everything. The room went cold. Your father. At first I thought it was spam, a sick joke, but then I started looking at the timeline. My father died of a heart attack during a board meeting. He'd been arguing with Richard about some acquisition. Witnesses said he seemed agitated, stressed. The coroner ruled it natural causes. You think it wasn't? I think my father found out what Richard was doing. I think he confronted him. And I think... She stopped, took a breath. I think Richard had him killed. And made it look natural. Ethan felt sick. If she was right, this wasn't just corporate fraud. This was murder. You have any proof? Not yet. But my father kept everything, every document, every memo. If he knew about the fraud, there'd be evidence somewhere. I've been looking for his personal files, but they've disappeared. Removed from his office after he died. Richard said they were donated to the company archives. But you don't believe that. Would you... Ethan's shift started in 3 hours. He needed sleep, needed to think. But Alexandra was looking at him with an expression he recognized. Desperation mixed with determination. The same look he'd seen in his own mirror 3 years ago. I need time, he said. I have a shift, a daughter to take care of. I can't just drop everything. I understand. Take the key. Look at the documents when you can. If you decide it's not worth it, walk away. No judgment, no pressure. Ethan pocketed the key, started toward the door. Mr. Reynolds. He stopped. Thank you for saving my life. Whatever you decide about the rest, thank you for that. Ethan left without responding. The corridor was empty. No sign of Bennett. But Ethan felt eyes on him anyway. Cameras in the corners. Security personnel who might not be loyal to Alexandra. He took the stairs instead of the elevator. Moved fast. Got to his car and sat there for 5 minutes watching for anyone following. Nothing. He drove home taking random turns, doubling back, checking mirrors, old habits from 3 years ago when paranoia had been justified. Mrs. Chen was reading to Lily when he got home. His daughter looked up, smiled. "Daddy, we're reading about dragons." "Dragons are cool," Ethan said, his voice sounding normal despite everything. "Mrs. Chen, can I talk to you for a second?" In the kitchen, he spoke quietly. "I need to ask you something. The next few days, maybe weeks, can you keep an extra eye on Lily Walker to and from school? Don't let her out of your sight." Mrs. Chen's face grew serious. "Is there trouble?" "I don't know yet, I hope not, but I need to know she's safe." "Of course, you don't even need to ask." After she left, Ethan made dinner. Pasta, Lily's favorite. They ate together and he helped with homework and read 3 chapters of their book. Normal routine, normal life. But the key in his pocket felt like it was burning through the fabric. After Lily fell asleep, Ethan sat at his kitchen table with his laptop. He pulled up everything he could find on Richard Bennett. MIT graduate, MBA from Wharton. Joined Westbrook Industries 15 years ago as a junior analyst. Worked his way up. Became CFO 7 years ago. Married. 2 kids. House in McLean. Country club membership. All very normal. Very respectable. Ethan dug deeper. Found Richard's financial disclosures, board positions, charitable donations. Everything looked clean. Too clean. He checked the clock. Midnight. His shift started at 6. He should sleep. Instead, he grabbed his jacket and car keys. First National Bank was downtown. 20 minutes at this hour. The building was closed, but Ethan parked across the street and studied it. Security cameras, guard desk visible through the button glass doors. Standard setup. He'd come back tomorrow during business hours, get the documents, see what was really there. His phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. "Last warning. Walk away." Ethan typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No response. He sat in his car watching the bank until 2 a.m. Nobody came, nobody went. Just an empty street and his own racing thoughts. At home, he managed 2 hours of sleep before his alarm went off. Lily was already awake making noise in the kitchen. He found her trying to pour cereal milk sloshing everywhere. "I was making breakfast," she said proudly. "I see that." He grabbed a towel. "Next time, wake me up first, okay?" "You were sleeping so hard. You must have been really tired." "Yeah, Peanut, really tired." Mrs. Chen came up at 7 to walk Lily to school. Ethan watched from the window as they headed down the street. His daughter's backpack bouncing. Mrs. Chen holding her hand. Please let her be safe, he thought. Please. His shift was brutal. 3 cardiac arrests, a pedestrian hit by a car, a house fire with smoke inhalation victims. Ethan ran on autopilot, his training carrying him through. Mike noticed. "You're distracted today. Just tired. You've been tired a lot lately." At lunch, Ethan called First National Bank. Asked about their safety deposit box hours. Confirmed he could access it anytime during business hours with proper ID and key. "I'll be there at 3, he told the clerk. His shift ended at 2. Ethan drove straight downtown, parked 3 blocks away, walked to the bank taking a random route, still checking for tails. The bank was marble and brass, old money, old security. A guard nodded as Ethan entered. He approached the desk, showed his ID, explained he needed to access a box. "Number?" the clerk asked. 4 for Olford, she typed. Frowned. "That box is registered to Alexandra Westbrook. Are you authorized?" Ethan showed the key. "She gave me access." The clerk made a phone call, nodded. "We'll need her verbal confirmation. 1 moment." 5 minutes later, Ethan was being led to the vault. Steel walls, climate-controlled, rows of boxes in every size. Box 447 was medium-sized. The clerk used her key and Ethan used his. The box slid out. "Take your time," the clerk said. "Room 3 is available if you need privacy." Ethan carried the box to the small room, closed the door, opened the lid. Inside were 3 folders, each labeled with dates. The oldest was from 4 years ago, the newest from 3 months ago. Ethan opened the first folder. His own report stared back at him. The original, with his signature and date. But there were pages he'd never seen. Additional documentation. Test results from labs he'd never contacted. Email chains that continued past where his investigation had ended. Someone had kept digging after he was fired. James Westbrook. It had to be. The second folder contained financial records, shell companies, wire transfers, money flowing from Westbrook Industries to vendors then back through complicated channels to offshore accounts, millions of dollars, all tied to Richard Bennett's digital signatures. The third folder was the smoking gun, emails between Bennett and Apex manufacturing executives, explicit discussions about falsifying test results, about bribing FAA inspectors, about eliminating people who asked too many questions. And there, dated 3 weeks before James Westbrook's death, an email from Ames to his personal attorney. Richard is killing people. I have proof. If anything happens to me, open the enclosed file and go to the FBI immediately. Ethan's hands shook. He pulled out his phone, started photographing every page, every document, every email. This was it. This was everything they needed. He was halfway through the third folder when his phone rang. Alexandra. "Did you find it?" she asked. "Yeah, it's all here. Your father was right." "I knew it. We need to move fast. Richard's getting suspicious. He called an emergency board meeting tomorrow. I think he's going to try to force me out." "We take this to the FBI tonight." "Not yet. We need more. We need proof of what happened to my father. Medical records, autopsy results, something that shows it wasn't natural." "Alexandra, this is enough. We have fraud. We have conspiracy. We need everything. Or Richard walks. His lawyers will tie this up for years. Witnesses will disappear. Evidence will be lost. We need an airtight case." Ethan wanted to argue, but she was right. Rich men with powerful lawyers didn't go down for white-collar crime unless the evidence was overwhelming. "Where are the autopsy results?" he asked. "DC Medical Examiner's Office, but they're sealed. We'd need a court order or family authorization." "Your family?" "I tried. Richard blocked it. Said it would be traumatic for me to revisit my father's death." The board agreed with him. Cool with him. Ethan thought fast. "I know someone at the ME's office, a pathologist. We worked a case together last year. Maybe he can help." "That's illegal." "So is murder." Silence on the line, then, "Do what you need to do." Ethan finished photographing the documents, returned the box, left the bank. In his car, he called Dr. Marcus Webb, a pathologist he'd shared late-night conversations with over body bags and fluorescent lights. "Ethan Reynolds, it's been a while." "Marcus, I need a favor, a big one." "How big?" "Access to sealed autopsy records." Long pause. "You know I can't do that." "James Westbrook, 2 years ago. Heart attack during a board meeting. I think it was murder." Another pause. "Why do you think that?" "Because the man who killed him just threatened my daughter." Marcus breathed out slowly. "Meet me at McGinty's bar on H Street. 9 p.m. Come alone." The line went dead. Ethan had 4 hours. He went home, picked up Lily from Mrs. Chen, made dinner, read stories. Trying to be present, trying to be a father. At 8:30, Mrs. Chen came back up. "Lily, Mrs. Chen's going to stay with you a bit. I have to go out." "Again?" "Just for a little while." "You're acting weird, Daddy." "I know, Peanut. I'm sorry. It'll be better soon." He hoped that was true. McGinty's was dark and quiet. Marcus was in the back booth, a whiskey in front of him. He looked older than Ethan remembered. Grayer. More tired. "This better be good," Marcus said. Ethan slid into the booth, kept his voice low. "James Westbrook, what do you remember about the autopsy?" "Rich guy, heart attack, massive coronary, open and shut." "Anything unusual?" "Like what?" "Like something that might have induced a heart attack." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Why are you asking this?" Ethan pulled out his phone, showed Marcus the photographs of the emails, the evidence of fraud, the systematic cover-up. Because the same man who orchestrated this conspiracy was in the room when James Westbrook died. And 3 weeks before his death, James told his lawyer he had proof Richard was killing people. Marcus read the emails. His face went pale. "Jesus Christ. Can you get me the autopsy file, the toxicology reports?" Ethan, if this is what you think it is, we're talking about murder. We need to go to the police. With what a hunch, they'll laugh us out of the building. But if we have proof that James Westbrook was poisoned combined with this financial evidence, we have a case. Marcus finished his whiskey, ordered another. Toxicology came back clean, I remember, because I ran it twice. Rich guy. Lawyers watching everything. Had to be thorough. What about substances that wouldn't show up on a standard tox screen? Like what? I don't know. Something that could induce cardiac arrest without leaving obvious traces. Marcus thought for a long moment. There are a few. Potassium chloride, overdose of certain heart medications, digitalis, but we'd have been looking for those. Would you? Standard protocol on any unexplained death, yeah? But James Westbrook's death wasn't unexplained. It was witnessed. During a stressful board meeting, natural causes all the way. Marcus went quiet. You're saying we might not have run the full panel. I'm saying someone with medical knowledge could have induced a heart attack that looked natural. And if nobody was looking for murder, nobody would find it. The tissue samples, we kept them. 2-year retention on high-profile cases. Marcus pulled out his phone. I can run additional tests, but if I find something, this goes straight to homicide. No delays, no waiting. Deal. Marcus left 20 minutes later. Ethan sat in the booth alone, nursing a beer he wasn't drinking. His phone buzzed. A text from Alexandra. Bennett's moving up the board meeting tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. He's going to fire me. Ethan typed back, we're not ready. We don't have a choice. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. Ethan called Marcus, voicemail. He left a message. I need those results tonight, please. Then he drove home. Lily was asleep. Chen had nodded off in the armchair again. Ethan covered her with a blanket, checked all the locks sat at his kitchen table. At 11:47 p.m., Marcus called. You were right, he said. His voice was shaking. Digitalis, massive dose. I only found it because I knew to look. It metabolizes quickly, mimics natural heart attack. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Ethan's heart pounded. Can you testify to this? I'm documenting everything right now, but Ethan, whoever did this, they're dangerous. Professional. This wasn't some amateur poisoning. I know. Thank you, Marcus. Send me the report. Already emailed, and I'm calling the police. Tonight. Wait until morning. Give me 12 hours, please. Ethan. 12 hours, then call whoever you want. I just need time to protect some people first. Marcus hesitated. Noon tomorrow, not a minute later. After they hung up, Ethan opened his laptop, downloaded Marcus's report, forwarded it to his own email, to a cloud backup, to a friend's email, everywhere he could think of. Then he called Alexandra. We have it, he said. Your father was murdered. Digitalis poisoning. The medical examiner can testify. Silence, then a sob, quickly stifled. I knew, she whispered. I knew something was wrong, but having proof? The police will have this information by noon tomorrow. Bennett's done. But that board meeting? I'll handle it. Come to the office, 7:30 a.m., before the meeting. I want Richard to see us together. I want him to know we found everything. Alexandra, that's dangerous. So is letting him think he's won. See you tomorrow. She hung up. Ethan sat in his kitchen, the enormity of what they'd uncovered settling over him. A conspiracy spanning years, multiple murders, fraud affecting thousands of flights, and tomorrow morning they were going to confront the man responsible. His phone buzzed one more time, another unknown number. But this text was different. You're making a mistake. Last chance to walk away. For Lily's sake. Ethan looked at his daughter's door, thought about her sleeping peacefully, about the life he'd built for them from the ruins of his career. He typed back, come near my daughter, and I'll destroy you. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat in the darkness listening to the building settle, checking the locks every hour, his phone in his hand. At 6 a.m., Mrs. Chen knocked softly. I'm here, she said. For Lily. All day if you need. How did you think I don't see what's happening? Go. Do what you need to do. Your daughter is safe with me. Ethan hugged her, the first time he'd done that in 3 years. Thank you. At 6:45 a.m., dressed in the only suit he owned, Ethan pulled up to Westbrook Industries headquarters, the building where his career had died. where he'd walked out 3 years ago with a box of personal items and no future. He was walking back in to finish what he'd started. Alexandra was waiting in the lobby. She looked different, stronger. Her arm was still in a sling, but her eyes were clear. "Ready?" she asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." They took the elevator to the executive floor, the same floor where that terrible meeting had happened. Security nodded them through. Alexandra's access still worked, for now. Richard Bennett's office was at the end of the hall. His assistant wasn't at her desk yet. Too early, Alexandra walked straight to his door, opened it without knocking. Richard was at his desk, reviewing documents. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face before his expression smoothed into corporate neutrality. Alexandra Reynolds. What an unexpected pleasure. "We know everything, Richard," Alexandra said. "The fraud, the falsified reports, the shell companies, and we know what you did to my father." Richard leaned back in his chair, smiled. "That's quite an accusation. Do you have proof?" Ethan stepped forward, dropped the folder on Richard's desk. "Every email, every wire transfer, every lie. And the autopsy results showing James Westbrook was murdered with digitalis." For just a second, Richard's mask slipped. Fear flashed in his eyes. Then he laughed. "You think this matters? You think anyone will believe the word of a disgraced engineer and a CEO having a breakdown after a traumatic accident? My lawyers will tear you apart." "The FBI might feel differently," Alexandra said. "The FBI?" Richard stood up. "Go ahead, call them. By the time they finish their investigation, I'll be retired in a country with no extradition. The money's already moved. The evidence trail is complex enough to take years to unravel. And you, Alexandra, will be removed from your position this morning for gross incompetence and mental instability. The board's already voted. Without me present, emergency session, last night. You're out, effective immediately." Alexandra's face went white. Richard moved toward the door. "Gentlemen from security will escort you both from the building. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." But Ethan wasn't looking at Richard anymore. He was looking past him, at the phone on the desk, at the blinking light. "Alexandra," Ethan said quietly, "when did you call me this morning?" "I didn't. I texted you." "So Richard's phone has been off the hook for our entire conversation." They both looked at Richard. His face had gone pale. The office door opened, but it wasn't security. It was 2 FBI agents in dark suits. Behind them, Marcus Webb, and behind him at least a dozen more federal agents. "Richard Bennett," the lead agent said, "you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, securities fraud, and suspicion of murder." Richard's legs seemed to give out. He grabbed the desk for support. "How?" he started. Alexandra smiled. "You really thought I'd confront you without backup? I called the FBI last night. Gave them everything. They've been listening to every word." The agents moved forward. Richard was cuffed, read his rights. The mask completely gone now, just terror. As they led him away, Richard looked back at Ethan. "This won't end," he said. "You have no idea how deep this goes." Then he was gone. Ethan stood in the office, his legs shaking. It was over. After 3 years, it was finally over. Alexandra touched his arm. "Thank you. For everything. For believing. For fighting." "I did it for the truth," Ethan said. "Not for you." "I know. That's why it mattered." The FBI spent the next 6 hours securing the building, seizing records, interviewing employees. Ethan gave his statement, handed over all his evidence, answered every question. At 3 p.m., he was finally allowed to leave. He drove home in a daze. Mrs. Chen met him at the door. "Lily's at the park with my grandson. She doesn't know anything yet." "Thank you for everything." "It's over." "Yeah, it's over." That night, Ethan tucked Lily into bed and told her a story about a man who found something wrong and fought to make it right. She listened with wide eyes. "Is that a true story?" she asked. "Yeah, Peanut, it is." Was the man scared? Terrified. But he did it anyway, because it was right. She hugged her rabbit. "You're brave, Daddy." "I'm just trying to be good enough for you." After she fell asleep, Ethan sat on his balcony in the darkness. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking: major aerospace executive arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. It was real. It was actually happening. His phone rang. Alexandra. I wanted to thank you again, she said. The board's asking me to step down anyway. Clean break, fresh start. Maybe it's for the best. What will you do? I don't know yet, but I have some ideas. What about you? Ethan looked out at the city, at the lights stretching to the horizon. I'm going to keep saving lives, he said. It's what I do. I'll craft a high-stakes narrative that maintains intense momentum, exploring the ripple effects of Bennett's arrest and the ongoing threat to the protagonists. But 3 days later, Ethan learned that arresting Richard Bennett was only the beginning. The call came at 2 a.m. Ethan jerked awake, his heart already pounding. Unknown number. Mr. Reynolds, this is Agent Sarah Martinez, FBI. We need you to come in immediately. What's wrong? Bennett made bail 2 hours ago. Ethan was on his feet. How is that possible? Federal judge ruled him not a flight risk. House arrest with ankle monitor. His lawyers are very good. Martinez's voice was tight with frustration. We're assigning protection to you and your daughter. Officers will be at your apartment in 10 minutes. He threatened Lily. You heard him on the recording. The recording is inadmissible. Defense is claiming entrapment. Look, we're building the case, but it's going to take time. Months, maybe longer. Can you and your daughter stay somewhere else? Where I can't afford. We'll arrange something. Just pack essentials. The officers will help you relocate. After she hung up, Ethan stood in the darkness of his bedroom, rage and fear warring inside him. They'd done everything right. They'd gotten the evidence, made the arrest. And Bennett was already out. He woke Lily gently. Hey, Peanut, we're going on an adventure. She rubbed her eyes. Now it's dark. I know, but it'll be fun, like camping. Come on, let's pack your favorite stuff. 20 minutes later, 2 FBI agents were at the door. A man and woman, both young, both armed. They helped carry bags down to an unmarked car while Mrs. Chen watched from her doorway, worry etched on her face. Where are you taking them? She asked. Safe house in Arlington, the female agent said. Don't tell anyone. Not family, not friends, no one. The safe house was a bland townhouse in a subdivision that looked like every other subdivision. Beige walls, rental furniture, bars on the windows disguised but as decorative grills. How long? Ethan asked as the agents did a security sweep. Until trial. Could be 6 months. Could be longer. 6 months. Lily couldn't miss 6 months of school. Ethan couldn't abandon his job for 6 months. This wasn't living. This was hiding. There has to be another way, he said. The male agent, whose name was Torres, shook his head. Bennett's connected, rich, angry. Until he's convicted and locked up, you're both at risk. After the agents left, Ethan made breakfast. Lily sat at the unfamiliar table, looking small and confused. Why can't we go home? She asked. Because some people are upset with Daddy right now. We need to stay here until it's safe. Because you told the truth about the bad things. Kids saw more than you thought. Yeah, Peanut. Something like that. That's not fair. No, it's not. His phone rang. Alexandra. I just heard about the bail, she said. Are you safe? For now, FBI has us in a safe house. This is my fault. I should have anticipated his lawyers would... This isn't about fault. It's about Bennett having money and connections in a system that protects people like him. Then we changed the system. Her voice was hard. I'm calling a press conference today. I'm going to tell everyone everything. Make it so public that Bennett can't threaten you without the world watching. Alexandra, that's the only way to protect you. If this story is everywhere, if everyone knows what Bennett did, he can't silence us without making it obvious. Trust me on this. She hung up before Ethan could argue. That afternoon, Ethan watched the press conference on the safe house television. Lily was coloring in the next room, protected from what was happening. Alexandra stood at a podium, cameras everywhere. She looked different without the CEO polish. More human, more real. My name is Alexandra Westbrook. Until yesterday, I was CEO of Westbrook Industries. I'm here to tell you that my company has been systematically defrauding safety inspections on aerospace components for at least 4 years. That my CFO, Richard Bennett, orchestrated this fraud and that he murdered my father, James Westbrook, when my father discovered the conspiracy. Reporters erupted with questions. Alexandra held up her hand. 3 years ago, an engineer named Ethan Reynolds tried to warn us. He compiled evidence, he followed proper channels, and we destroyed him for it. We fired him, blacklisted him, ruined his career and his life. Because the truth was inconvenient, because profits mattered more than safety. She pulled out papers, held them up to the cameras. These are the original reports Mr. Reynolds filed. This is proof that he was right, that we were wrong, that I was wrong, and I'm here to say publicly I'm sorry. To Mr. Reynolds, to his family, to everyone who's been harmed by my company's actions. Ethan's throat tightened. On screen, Alexandra's voice never wavered. Richard Bennett was arrested 3 days ago. He made bail this morning. His lawyers are claiming the evidence was obtained illegally, that Mr. Reynolds and I entrapped him. They're going to try to paint us as vindictive, as liars, as people with an agenda. She leaned into the microphone. So, I'm making this simple. I'm releasing every document we have, every email, every financial record. Everything goes to the FAA, the FBI, and the public. No redactions, no corporate privilege, complete transparency. And I'm resigning as CEO effective immediately. Not because I was forced to, but because I failed in my responsibility to protect people. And that failure has consequences. The questions came fast. Alexandra answered them all. Calm, direct, taking full responsibility. When it ended, Agent Martinez called. Well, that changes things, she said. Bennett's lawyers are going to have a harder time claiming entrapment when Westbrook just confessed to everything on national television. Does that mean we can go home? Let me talk to my supervisor. Sit tight. But sitting tight lasted only 4 hours. Ethan was making dinner when Torres burst through the door, weapon drawn. Get down now! Ethan pulled Lily under the table. What's happening? Motion sensors triggered. Someone's outside. Torres was on his radio. Requesting immediate backup. Possible breach at Safe House 7. The female agent Chen was at the window. 2 vehicles, black SUVs, 4 men visible, armed. Bennett's people, Ethan asked. Move to the basement, now. Ethan grabbed Lily and ran. The basement was concrete and windowless, a panic room. Torres sealed the door behind them. Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone but me or Agent Chen. Then he was gone. Ethan held Lily in the darkness. She was shaking. Daddy, I'm scared. Me too, Peanut, but we're safe. Those agents are really good at their jobs. Gunfire erupted above them. 3 shots, then silence. Lily buried her face in Ethan's chest. More shots. Shouting. Something heavy crashed. Then nothing. Ethan waited, his heart hammering. Minutes crawled past. 5, 10, 15. Finally, a knock on the door. Mr. Reynolds, it's Martinez. You can come out. Ethan opened the door slowly. Martinez stood there, her weapon holstered, her face grim. Everyone okay? What happened? 4 men tried to breach the house. We took them into custody. Torres is wounded, but he'll be fine. Chen's giving her statement. Martinez looked at Lily, then back at Ethan. This safe house is compromised. We're moving you again. Different state this time. Full witness protection protocols. No, Ethan's voice was flat. Ethan's voice was, Mr. Reynolds, no, I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding my daughter in basements while Bennett's people hunt us. Find another way. There is no other way, not until Bennett's back in custody. Then put him back in custody. We're trying, but his lawyers filed motions. Judge has to rule. It's a process. While his people shoot at federal agents, Martinez had no answer for that. An hour later, they were in a different vehicle heading to a different location. But Ethan's phone kept buzzing. News alerts. Bennett's arrest had been revoked. New charges filed. Attempted murder of federal agents. No bail this time. Then a call from Alexandra. Are you okay? I saw the news about the shooting. We're alive. This is because of the press conference, because I made it public. Bennett panicked. Good, let him panic. Maybe he'll make more mistakes. Ethan, I need to tell you something. The board forced me out, but I negotiated my severance. All of it. $12 million. I want to give it to you. What? No. I don't want, not as charity, as investment. I want to start something, a foundation, protecting whistleblowers, funding investigations into corporate fraud, making sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else, but I can't do it without you. Ethan was quiet. You're the face of this, Alexandra continued. The person who did everything right and got destroyed for it. With your name, your story, we could actually change things, make companies afraid to retaliate, give people like you a real chance. I need to think about it. Think fast, because right now Bennett's lawyers are spinning this as a witch hunt. As two vindictive people out for revenge, we need to control the narrative, or we lose everything. The new safe house was in Baltimore. Smaller, more secure, but still a cage. Lily cried herself to sleep that night. Ethan sat beside her bed holding her hand, feeling like the worst father in the world. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. But this time the message was different. Mr. Reynolds, this is Margaret Chen, Richard Bennett's executive assistant. I have information you need, information about more people involved. Meet me tomorrow, alone. I'm risking everything to contact you. Ethan stared at the text. It could be a trap. Could be Bennett trying to lure him out. Or it could be the break they needed. He texted back, "How do I know you're real?" with 3 dots. Then, because I was in the room when they planned to kill James Westbrook. And I did nothing. And I've been living with that guilt for 2 years. Please, let me help make this right. Ethan called Martinez, explained the situation. Absolutely not, she said. You're not meeting anyone. Could be a setup. Or she could have evidence that puts more people away. Bennett didn't do this alone, you know that. We'll arrange a controlled meeting. FBI agents present, secure location. She said alone. If she sees feds, she'll run. Then we lose a potential witness. Not worth risking your life. But Ethan was already forming a plan. The next morning, he told the protection detail he needed to make a pharmacy run. Medication for Lily. The agents agreed to take him. But when they stopped at CVS, Ethan went in the front door and out the back, grabbed a taxi, was 3 blocks away before the agents realized he was gone. His phone exploded with calls. He ignored them. Margaret Chen had specified a location, a coffee shop in Georgetown, public, busy, relatively safe. Ethan got there 20 minutes early, scoped the exits, watched the crowd, looking for anything suspicious. At exactly 2 p.m., a woman in her 50s entered. Gray hair pulled back, glasses. She looked exhausted. She sat down across from Ethan. "Thank you for coming," she said. Her hands were shaking. "I wasn't sure you would." "You said you have information." Margaret pulled out a flash drive. "Everything. Names, dates, recordings of meetings I've been documenting for 2 years. Ever since James died. I knew it was wrong, but I was too afraid to come forward." "Why now?" "Because Richard tried to kill federal agents, because he tried to kill you and your daughter, because this has to end." She slid the flash drive across the table. "There are 7 other executives involved. Board members, lawyers, people in the FAA. It's bigger than you think." Ethan pocketed the drive. "You need to talk to the FBI. Formal statement. Witness protection." "I know. I'm ready. I'm tired of being afraid." A man in a dark jacket entered the coffee shop. Margaret saw him. Her face went white. "That's Bennett's head of security. We need to go. Now." They stood. The man was moving toward them, his hand inside his jacket. Ethan grabbed Margaret's arm, pulled her toward the back exit. The man followed. They burst into an alley. Ethan's car was 3 blocks away, but they'd never make it on foot. A black sedan screeched around the corner. For a second, Ethan thought it was more of Bennett's people. Then Alexandra jumped out. "Get in!" They scrambled into the car. Alexandra floored it. The man in the dark jacket ran after them, but they were already gone. "How did you—" Ethan started. "FBI called me, said you ran. I figured out where you'd go." She glanced in the mirror at Margaret. "You must be Chen." "How did you know?" "Because I would have done the same thing if I'd been in your position. Scared. Complicit. Looking for redemption." Alexandra's voice was kind. "Welcome to the right side." They drove to FBI headquarters. Martinez was waiting, furious. "You could have been killed." "But I wasn't. And now you have a witness and evidence that connects more people to the conspiracy." Ethan handed her the flash drive. "Margaret Chen, Richard Bennett's executive assistant. She documented everything." Martinez's anger faded as she looked at Margaret. "You're willing to testify?" "Yes, all of it. Everyone involved. I want immunity, but I'll tell you everything." "Deal?" The next 3 hours were a blur. Margaret's statement, the contents of the flash drive, names that made even the federal agents go pale. "This goes to the Senate," Martinez said. "Congressional oversight committees. We're talking corruption at the highest levels." As they left the building, Ethan's phone rang. His phone at the safe house. Why does done Lily? Daddy, when are you coming back? His heart broke. Soon, Peanut. Real soon, I promise. Mrs. Chen made me cookies, but they're not as good as yours. I'll make you a whole batch when I get home. Triple chocolate chip. Daddy, I'm proud of you for being brave. Ethan's vision blurred. I love you, kiddo, so much. That night, sitting in Alexandra's car outside the FBI building, Ethan felt the exhaustion hit him like a wave. It's almost over, Alexandra said quietly. The arrests, the trials. Soon you can go home. What about you? What are you going to do? I meant what I said about the foundation. The Westbrook Safety Trust, protecting people who do the right thing, making sure they don't end up like you, or like Margaret Chen, afraid and complicit. She paused. I want you to run it. Director, full salary, benefits, real resources to make a difference. I'm an EMT. I don't know anything about running a foundation. You know about integrity, about standing up when it's easier to stay silent. That's what matters. She met his eyes. Think about it. No pressure. But we could actually change things. Together. Ethan thought about the last 3 years. The struggles, the double shifts, the times Lily asked why they couldn't afford things. The humiliation of food stamps and overdue rent notices. But he also thought about the lives he'd saved. The people he'd helped. The look on Lily's face when he came home. Let me talk to my daughter, he said. She gets a vote in this. Alexandra smiled. She sounds like a smart kid. Smarter than me. 2 days later, the FBI executed coordinated raids. 7 arrests, board members, FAA officials, lawyers who'd helped cover up the fraud. The news ran footage of handcuffs and perp walks and executives who thought they were untouchable learning otherwise. Richard Bennett's bail was permanently revoked. He'd be held without bond until trial. Ethan and Lily were finally cleared to go home. Their apartment looked exactly as they'd left it. Mrs. Chen had been watering the plants. The neighbors had collected their mail. Nothing had changed. Except everything had changed. That night, Ethan made triple chocolate chip cookies. Lily helped getting flour everywhere, licking the spoon despite his protests. Daddy, she said as they waited for the timer. Are the bad people gone? Yeah, Peanut. They're gone. So we're safe now. We're safe. She hugged him. Good. I like it better when you're not scared. Me too. The next morning, Alexandra called. The board wants me to make a statement. Final press conference. Closing this chapter. Will you stand with me? Ethan thought about it. About everything they'd been through. About the woman who'd destroyed him becoming the woman who'd fought beside him? Yeah, he said. I'll be there. The press conference was smaller this time, more controlled. Alexandra spoke about accountability, about the arrests, about the changes Westbrook Industries was implementing. Then she gestured to Ethan. This man lost everything because he told the truth. His career, his marriage, years of his life. And yesterday the board voted to restore his engineering license, to clear his name completely, to acknowledge that he was right and we were wrong. Ethan hadn't known. His breath caught. Mr. Reynolds, Alexandra continued, on behalf of Westbrook Industries, I apologize, formally and publicly. You deserved better. You deserved to be heard. The reporters had questions, but Ethan barely heard them. His engineering license restored. After 3 years of being branded a liar. After the conference ended, Alexandra pulled him aside. The offer stands. Director of the Safety Trust. We launch in 3 months. I need an answer. Ethan looked at her. This woman who'd been his enemy, who'd become his ally, who was offering him a chance to turn his pain into purpose. I need to make a call first, he said. He stepped outside, called his supervisor at the ambulance company. Jim, it's Ethan Reynolds. I need to tell you something. You're quitting. How did you know? Because you just brought down one of the biggest fraud cases in aerospace history. You're not staying an EMT after that. It's been good work. Important work. It has been. And you've been damn good at it. But Ethan, you're meant for bigger things. Go do them. After he hung up, Ethan stood in the afternoon sun, thought about Lily, about the future they could have, about turning 3 years of hell into something that mattered. He went back inside, found Alexandra. Okay, he said, let's change the system. She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. Then let's get to work. 3 weeks later, Ethan sat in a conference room with a title on the door, Westbrook Safety Trust, his name underneath director. The office was small but growing. 3 staff members, plans for more. A hotline for whistleblowers, legal funds, media support, everything he'd needed 3 years ago and hadn't had. His first call came that afternoon. A woman in Texas, an engineer at a medical device company. She'd found safety violations, was being threatened, was terrified. "You're doing the right thing," Ethan told her. "And you're not alone. We're going to help you, every step of the way." After the call, he sat back in his chair, looked at the photo on his desk, Lily at the park, smiling, safe. They'd won, not perfectly, not without scars, but they'd won. And maybe, just maybe, they'd made sure the next person wouldn't have to fight as hard. But winning, Ethan quickly learned, was just the beginning of a much longer fight. 6 weeks into running the safety trust, his phone rang at midnight. The secure line, the one only federal prosecutors had access to. "Mr. Reynolds, this is Assistant U.S. Attorney David Park. We need to talk about Richard Bennett's trial." Ethan sat up in bed. "What about it?" "His lawyers are filing a motion to suppress all evidence obtained through Alexandra Westbrook. They're claiming she coerced your cooperation, that everything you provided was fruit of an illegal search. If the judge agrees, our entire case collapses." "That's insane. I provided the evidence voluntarily." "They're arguing you were compromised, that Ms. Westbrook manipulated you because of your prior history with the company. The judge is sympathetic to the argument." "So what do we do?" "You testify, both of you, in 2 weeks, preliminary hearing. You need to convince the judge that every action you took was of your own free will, that this was about justice, not revenge." After Park hung up, Ethan sat in the darkness. Lily was asleep down the hall. His new office had a name plaque. His engineering license hung on the wall. Everything he'd lost was being restored piece by piece, and Bennett's lawyers were trying to destroy it all again. The next morning, Alexandra showed up at the trust office. She looked different. Hair pulled back, no makeup, jeans and a simple blouse instead of a power suit. "You heard about the hearing," Ethan said. "Park called me too. Bennett's lawyers are good. They're going to paint us as vindictive, as conspirators ourselves." "Then we tell the truth." "The truth is complicated. I did manipulate you initially. When I called you to the hospital, I was desperate. I was scared. I used your anger, your pain to get what I needed." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Yeah, you did." "So how do we stand up there and claim this was all pure justice when it started with manipulation? Because somewhere along the way, it stopped being about us and started being about the truth. About the people who could die if we didn't act." Ethan met her eyes. "We made mistakes, both of us. But the evidence is real. The fraud happened. People died. That doesn't change because our motives weren't perfect." Alexandra was quiet for a long moment. "I've been thinking about something. About what I could do to make this right. Really right." "You've done plenty. The trust, the foundation. Clearing my name. That's money. That's easy. I want to do something that matters." She took a breath. "I want to become an EMT like you. I want to learn what it means to actually save lives instead of just writing checks." Ethan stared at her. "You're serious?" "Completely. I called the training academy this morning. Classes start in 3 weeks. I've already enrolled." "Alexandra EMT training is brutal. It's long hours, physical demands, emotional trauma." "I know, that's the point. I've spent my entire life in boardrooms, making decisions that affected thousands of people I never met, never saw, never had to look in the eye." Her voice was fierce. "I want to be there, on the ground, doing the work, earning the right to be part of what we're building." Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she didn't need to prove anything, but he saw the determination in her face and recognized it. It was the same look he'd had 3 years ago when he'd decided to become an EMT, when he'd needed to transform his pain into purpose. "Okay," he said, "but don't expect special treatment. EMT instructors don't care who you used to be." "Good, I don't want them to." That afternoon, Ethan got another call, this one unexpected. "Ethan, it's Sarah." His ex-wife. He hadn't heard her voice in 8 months. "Sarah, hi. I saw the news about everything with Westbrook Industries, about you bringing down that conspiracy. She paused. You were right, 3 years ago, about all of it. Yeah. I should have believed you. I should have stood by you. Instead, She stopped. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I need you to hear it. I was wrong. Ethan closed his eyes. Why are you calling Sarah? Because Lily deserves to know what her father did. How brave you were. How you stood up when everyone else walked away. Her voice cracked. I told her you were tilting at windmills, that you were throwing our lives away for nothing, but you were fighting for something real, something important, and she should know that. She knows. I told her a version she could understand. Can I talk to her? Tell her myself. Ethan thought about all the times Lily had asked why Mommy left, all the careful explanations about grown-up problems and difficult choices, all the nights she'd cried herself to sleep missing a mother who'd chosen distance over difficulty. Call her, he said, but Sarah, if you're going to be in her life, be in it. Don't show up when it's convenient and disappear when it's hard. I understand. Thank you. After they hung up, Ethan sat at his desk feeling the weight of everything shifting. The past was catching up, old wounds were opening, and in 2 weeks he'd have to stand in front of a judge and defend every choice he'd made. The preliminary hearing arrived too fast. Ethan wore the same suit he'd worn to confront Bennett. Alexandra was beside him in a navy dress, her arm finally out of the sling. Bennett was already seated at the defense table. He'd lost weight. Prison food. His expensive suit didn't fit right anymore, but his eyes still held that arrogant gleam. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Patricia Morrison entered. 60-something, sharp eyes, a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. Mr. Park, you may proceed, she said. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the defense is claiming all evidence in this case was obtained through coercion and illegal means. We're here to demonstrate that every piece of evidence was voluntarily provided by individuals acting in good faith to expose criminal activity. Bennett's lead attorney, a man named Crawford, who charged $1,000 an hour, stood up. Your Honor, the prosecution's entire case rests on evidence obtained by 2 individuals with clear personal vendettas, such as. Westbrook was facing removal from her company. Mr. Reynolds had been fired and blamed Ms. Westbrook for his career destruction. They conspired together to manufacture evidence that would incriminate my client. Manufacture? Park's voice rose. The emails are real. The financial records are real. The testimony from Margaret Chen corroborates everything. Ms. Chen was coerced as well, threatened with prosecution unless she cooperated. My client is the victim of a coordinated attack by bitter, vengeful people who... Enough! Judge Morrison's voice cut through the argument. I'll hear testimony. Mr. Reynolds, please take the stand. Ethan walked to the witness box, was sworn in, sat down facing the courtroom. Bennett was staring at him with barely concealed hatred. Park approached. Mr. Reynolds, when Alexandra Westbrook first contacted you, what was your reaction? Suspicious. I thought it might be a trap. But you agreed to help her anyway. Not immediately. I took time to think about it, to consider whether the risk was worth it. What convinced you? Ethan looked at Bennett. Because people were dying. Not hypothetically. Actually dying. There was a plane crash 4 months before Ms. Westbrook contacted me. Regional flight, 37 people dead. The investigation found faulty wing components. The same components I'd flagged in my original report. A murmur went through the awful courtroom. Park held up a document. Is this the NTSB report from that crash? Yes. And does it identify Apex Manufacturing as the supplier of the faulty parts? It does. Crawford stood. Objection. The NTSB report doesn't prove my client had any knowledge of... Your Honor, Park interrupted. We have emails showing Mr. Bennett specifically instructed Apex to use substandard materials and falsify test results. Those emails are dated 6 months before the crash. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. I'll allow it. Continue, Mr. Park. The questioning went on for 2 hours. Ethan explained everything. The hospital meeting, the decision to investigate, finding the documents in the safe deposit box, the confrontation with Bennett. Then Crawford got his turn. Mr. Reynolds, isn't it true you hated Alexandra Westbrook? I was angry with her, yes. You blamed her for destroying your life. She signed the papers that fired me, yes. You lost your marriage because of her. My marriage ended for a lot of reasons. But Ms. Westbrook's actions were a factor. Ethan met Crawford's eyes. Yes. So when she offered you a chance to get revenge, you took it? No, when she offered me a chance to prove I'd been right, I took it. There's a difference. Is there? You got your career back. You got a high-paying job running her foundation. You got public vindication. Sounds like revenge with benefits. I got the truth out. That's what I wanted 3 years ago. That's what I still want. Crawford smiled. The truth. Let's talk about truth. Isn't it true you illegally accessed company files 3 years ago? I accessed files I had security clearance for. After you'd been warned to drop your investigation, because people were going to die if I didn't. So you believe the ends justify the means, that breaking rules is acceptable if you think you're right. Ethan's jaw tightened. I followed every proper channel. I reported to my supervisor, to the head of engineering, to the CEO. Nobody listened. What was I supposed to do? Sit back and let people die? You were supposed to follow the law, Mr. Reynolds, not become a vigilante. Objection, Park said. Counsel is arguing, not questioning. Sustained. Mr. Crawford, get to your point. Crawford approached the witness box. Mr. Reynolds, when you confronted my client in his office, you were secretly recording him, weren't you? Ms. Westbrook had called the FBI. They were listening. Without Mr. Bennett's knowledge or consent, without a warrant. Ms. Westbrook was in her hospital room. It was her phone, her consent. Convenient. And when you obtained documents from the safe deposit box, you had a key that Ms. Westbrook provided. How do you know those documents weren't planted? Created specifically to incriminate my client. Because they matched the originals I compiled 3 years ago, down to the serial numbers on the test equipment. Crawford paused. That answer had surprised him. Your Honor, he said, I'd like to call Alexandra Westbrook to the stand. Alexandra stood, walked to the witness box, was sworn in. She looked calm, but Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders. Crawford wasted no time. Ms. Westbrook, you hated Richard Bennett, didn't you? I believed he was responsible for my father's death? Yes. So you wanted revenge. I wanted justice. You called Mr. Reynolds because you knew he hated you. You knew he'd be motivated to help you destroy Mr. Bennett. I called Mr. Reynolds because he was the only person who'd tried to expose the fraud before, because he had credibility. And because he was angry enough to do whatever you asked, I asked him to help me find the truth, that's all. You manipulated him, used his pain, his anger, his desire for vindication. Didn't you? Alexandra was quiet for a moment. Then she looked directly at Crawford. Yes, initially I did. I was desperate. I was scared. I thought someone had tried to kill me and I didn't know who to trust. So I used the one person I knew had no reason to lie. She paused. But Mr. Reynolds made his own choices. Every step of the way. I offered him information. He decided what to do with it. Nobody forced him to investigate. Nobody forced him to risk his life and his daughter's safety. He did that because he believed it was right. How convenient for you. You get to claim moral high ground while Mr. Reynolds took all the risks. No, I took risks too. I stood up to my own board. I gave up my position. I confessed publicly to covering up the fraud. I put everything on the line. Because you knew you were finished anyway. Your father's files implicated you in the conspiracy. The courtroom went silent. Alexandra's face went white. What? Crawford held up a document. These are notes from your father dated 6 months before his death. In them, he questions whether you knew about the fraud, whether you were protecting Bennett because of some personal relationship. That's a lie. Isn't it true you and Richard Bennett had an affair 5 years ago? Ethan's head snapped up. What Alexandra's hands gripped the witness box. That has nothing to do with... It has everything to do with motive. You helped Bennett cover up fraud because you were personally involved with him. Then when he had your father killed, you turned on him. Not out of some noble desire for justice, but because he betrayed you personally. Objection. Park was on his feet. This is speculation and character assassination. Your Honor, Crawford said smoothly. I have sworn testimony from 3 Westbrook Industries employees stating they witnessed Ms. Westbrook and Mr. Bennett in compromising situations. Hotel receipts, travel records, text messages. Judge Morrison looked at Alexandra. Ms. Westbrook, is there any truth to this allegation? Alexandra's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, 5 years ago, briefly, Richard and I had an inappropriate relationship. It ended. It had nothing to do with the fraud. The courtroom erupted. Reporters were typing frantically. Bennett's face showed the first crack of actual emotion. Satisfaction. Ethan felt sick. This whole time, Alexandra had been hiding that. The implications were devastating. Crawford pressed his advantage. So, everything you've claimed about seeking justice is a lie. This was always about a woman scorned, about revenge for betrayal. No. Alexandra's voice grew stronger. My relationship with Richard ended 5 years ago. Before any of the fraud began, before my father's suspicions. I had moved on. I had forgiven him. But when I found evidence that he'd killed my father, that he'd endangered thousands of lives for profit that changed everything. How convenient that you suddenly found evidence right after your father's files might implicate you. I was never implicated. My father was questioning, investigating. That's what good leaders do. And he found the truth. Richard Bennett orchestrated a massive fraud. He murdered my father to cover it up, and he would have gotten away with it if Mr. Reynolds hadn't had the courage to help me expose it. Crawford smiled. Or if Mr. Reynolds hadn't seen an opportunity to get revenge on you both. Judge Morrison held up her hand. That's enough. Both of you sit down. I need time to consider the arguments. They broke for lunch. In the courthouse cafeteria, Ethan sat across from Alexandra. Neither of them had touched their food. You should have told me, Ethan said quietly. I know, I was ashamed. It was the worst mistake of my life, getting involved with someone I worked with. Someone I should have been supervising. It was unprofessional. It was stupid. It makes everything look different, like this whole thing was personal between you two. It wasn't. By the time the fraud started, Richard and I barely spoke. I'd moved on. I never suspected he was capable of... She stopped. But Crawford's right about one thing. I did use you. I saw your anger and I weaponized it. Yeah, you did. I'm sorry, truly. If I could go back... We can't go back, we can only move forward. Ethan looked at her. The question is whether the judge believes we were acting in good faith or just settling personal scores. They returned to the courtroom an hour later. Judge Morrison looked grim. I've reviewed the arguments and the evidence. This is a deeply troubling case, both in terms of the alleged crimes and the methods used to expose them. She paused. However, the evidence itself appears sound. The financial records are verifiable. The emails are authenticated. The testimony from Margaret Chen is corroborated by physical evidence. Bennett's face fell. The fact that Ms. Westbrook and Mr. Reynolds had personal motives doesn't invalidate the evidence. It raises questions about their credibility as witnesses, certainly. But the documents speak for themselves. She looked at Crawford. Motion to suppress is denied. The evidence stands. This case will proceed to trial. The relief hit Ethan like a wave. They'd won. The case would continue. But as they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Questions about Alexandra's affair, about Ethan's motives, about whether this was really justice or just a messy love triangle playing out in court. No comment, Alexandra said, pushing through the hollow crowd. In the parking garage away from cameras, she leaned against her car. That was brutal, she said. Yeah. I'm sorry for not telling you about Richard, for letting you walk into that blindly. You're right, you should have told me, but it doesn't change what he did. It doesn't change that people died. The trial's going to be worse. Crawford's going to drag every mistake, every bad decision, every personal failing into the light. Then we let him, because at the end of the day, the evidence is real. The truth is real. And that's what matters. Alexandra looked at him. How do you do that? Stay focused, stay clear, after everything. Because I have a daughter who's watching, who needs to see that you can fight for what's right even when it's hard, even when people tear you apart for it. You're a better person than I am. No, I've just had more practice at losing. You're learning. Alexandra laughed despite everything. Is that what this is, a learning experience? The most expensive education you'll ever get. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Alexandra's phone buzzed. EMT training starts in 2 days, she said, looking at the reminder. I'm terrified. You should be. It's going to be harder than anything you've ever done. Good. I need hard right now. I need something real. 2 days later, Ethan got a call from the training academy. The director, a no-nonsense former paramedic named Sharon Martinez. Your friend Alexandra Westbrook, she's struggling. Already, she's brilliant, gets the bookwork perfectly. But the practical skills, she's scared to touch patients, freezes during simulations. If she doesn't improve, she won't pass. Give her time. Time isn't the issue. Confidence is. She's in her head too much, overthinking everything. Sharon paused. She mentioned you used to be an engineer, that you made the same transition. Would you be willing to come talk to the class, show them it's possible? Ethan hesitated. He was busy with the trust, with preparing for Bennett's trial, with being a father. But he thought about Alexandra's face in the parking garage, about her determination to transform herself. Yeah, he said. I'll come. The EMT training facility was in Alexandria, a converted warehouse with mock ambulances and practice rooms. 20 students in their second week of training. Alexandra was in the back row. She looked exhausted. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. Scrubs instead of a suit. Ethan stood at the front of the room. Sharon asked me to talk about transitioning careers, about going from an office job to doing this work. The truth is, it's hard. Harder than you think. Because everything you learned in your previous life, most of it doesn't apply here. He walked between the desks. In an office, you have time to think, to analyze, to make careful decisions. Out there, you have seconds, maybe minutes, and people live or die based on what you do in that moment. No do-overs, no second chances. The students were listening intently. The hardest part isn't the technical skills. Those you can learn. It's learning to trust yourself, to act without overthinking, to make decisions when you're terrified and exhausted and nothing makes sense. He looked at Alexandra. You'll freeze. Everyone does. You'll doubt yourself. You'll wonder if you're good enough, strong enough, brave enough. He paused. And then you'll save someone. And that person will go home to their family, and you'll realize this is the most important work you'll ever do. Not because it's glamorous, not because it pays well, but because it matters, every single time. After the class, Alexandra found him outside. Thank you, she said, for coming, for saying what I needed to hear. You're doing fine. Sharon says you're getting the bookwork perfectly. Bookwork is easy. It's touching actual people that scares me. What if I hurt someone? What if I make a mistake? You will. Everyone does. The question is whether you learn from it or let it destroy you. How did you do it? After you lost everything, how did you start over? Ethan thought about those early days. The humiliation, the fear. The nights when giving up seemed easier than continuing. I had Lily. She needed me to be strong. So I was, even when I didn't feel like it. Even when I wanted to quit. He met Alexandra's eyes. Find your reason. The thing that matters more than your fear. Hold on to that. Alexandra nodded slowly. The people I failed. The ones who died because I didn't listen to you 3 years ago. That's my reason. I can't bring them back, but I can make sure I never fail like that again. Then you'll make it. Over the next month, as Bennett's trial approached, Ethan watched Alexandra transform. She stopped freezing, started acting on instinct, passed her practical exams, earned the respect of her instructors. And at home, Lily was changing too. Sarah had started calling weekly, sending presents, talking about visiting. Lily was cautiously optimistic, but Ethan saw the fear in her eyes, the worry that her mother would disappear again. Daddy, do you think Mommy really means it this time? She asked one night. I don't know, Peanut. I hope so. But what if she doesn't? What if she leaves again? Ethan pulled her close. Then we keep going, like we always have, you and me. And Mrs. Chen. And Mrs. Chen. And maybe Alexandra, she's nice. She brought me those books. Ethan had introduced them a week ago. Alexandra had been nervous, brought age-appropriate books about strong women in history. Lily had loved them. Yeah, Ethan said. Alexandra is nice. Do you like her? She's a friend, a colleague. But do you like her, Lily? Because it's okay if you do. You're allowed to like people, Daddy. You're allowed to be happy. Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds. I'm happy with you, kiddo. You know what I mean. He did, and he didn't know how to answer, because somewhere along the way his relationship with Alexandra had become complicated. They'd been enemies, then allies. Now something undefined that scared him more than Bennett's lawyers. The trial began on a Tuesday in October, 1 year after the night Ethan had pulled Alexandra from that wrecked car on the bridge. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. Financial records, emails, testimony from Margaret Chen, the NTSB report from the plane crash, medical records showing James Westbrook's Digitalis poisoning. Bennett's defense was that he'd been following orders, that James Westbrook himself had initiated the fraud, that Alexandra had covered it up until she needed a scapegoat. It was desperate, it was ugly, and over 12 days of testimony it fell apart piece by piece. On the final day, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. Ethan sat in the courtroom with Alexandra beside him. Lily was with Mrs. Chen. The Safety Trust had a dozen open cases. The world was continuing around them. But in that moment, everything came down to 12 people deciding whether justice actually existed. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have your honor. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, how do you find guilty? On the charge of securities fraud, guilty. On the charge of murder in the first degree. The courtroom held its breath. Guilty. The word echoed. Final? Complete. Alexandra made a sound, half sob, half gasp. Ethan reached over, took her hand. She gripped it tight. Bennett's face was blank. Empty, like he couldn't process what was happening. Judge Morrison spoke. Mr. Bennett, you will be remanded to federal custody pending sentencing, given the severity of the crimes, and your flight risk bail is denied. As they led him away in handcuffs, Bennett looked back one final time. Not at his lawyers, not at the judge, at Ethan. And in his eyes, Ethan saw what he needed to see. Not arrogance, not confidence, fear. Outside the courthouse, Ethan called Lily. Hey, Peanut, it's done. The bad man is going to prison. Forever. For a very long time. Good. When are you coming home? 20 minutes. Want to order pizza? Can we get the one with the stuffed crust? We can get whatever you want. After he hung up, Alexandra was standing nearby talking to reporters, saying all the right things about justice and accountability and moving forward. When she finished, she came over to Ethan. This is it, she said. The end of the trial? The end of Bennett? The end of all of it. Yeah. So why don't I feel relieved? Because ending something isn't the same as healing from it. That takes longer. How much longer? I'll let you know when I figure it out. Alexandra smiled. Then impulsively she hugged him. Ethan stiffened for a second, then returned it. Thank you, she said quietly, for giving me a chance to make this right, for not giving up on me. You gave yourself the chance, I just helped. They stood there for a moment. Then Alexandra pulled back. I need to go. EMT certification exam tomorrow. I need to study. You'll do great. How do you know? Because you don't give up. I've seen that firsthand. After she left, Ethan drove home, found Lily and Mrs. Chen making cookies. The apartment smelled like sugar and vanilla. Normal, whole. Daddy? Lily ran to him. We're celebrating. I see that. Mrs. Chen says you're a hero. Mrs. Chen is generous. You are, Mrs. Chen said firmly. You fought for what was right. That's heroism. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan sat on his balcony looking at the city lights. A year ago, he'd been drowning, working double shifts, barely surviving, fighting ghosts and memories, and a system designed to protect the powerful. Now he had a job that mattered, a daughter who was thriving, and a future that felt possible. His phone buzzed, a text from Alexandra. Passed the certification exam, 98%. I'm officially an EMT. Ethan smiled, texted back, Congratulations. Welcome to the best, worst job in the world. Can't wait. Thank you for showing me the way. He put his phone down, looked at the sky. Somewhere in this city, someone was having a heart attack. A car accident, a medical emergency. And EMTs were racing to save them. Soon, Alexandra would be one of them. Trading boardrooms for ambulances. Power for purpose. And Ethan, he was building something that would protect people like him. People who stood up and paid the price. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't pain-free. But it was real, and it was theirs, and that was enough. 1 year later, Ethan stood backstage at the Washington Convention Center, his hands sweating despite the air conditioning. Through the curtain, he could see 2,000 people filling the auditorium: journalists, advocates, corporate executives, government officials, all here for the first annual Westbrook Safety Trust Conference. 5 minutes, Mr. Reynolds, the stage manager said. Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from Lily, who was sitting in the front row with Mrs. Chen. "You got this, Daddy. Don't forget to smile." He smiled despite his nerves. Texted back a heart emoji. Another text, this one from Alexandra. "Almost there. Ambulance got delayed. Traffic accident on Constitution. Be there in 10. Of course she was running late because she was literally saving someone's life. That was Alexandra now, 6 months working as a full-time EMT. Night shifts, weekends. The same chaos and exhaustion Ethan had lived for years. The stage manager touched his arm. "Time!" Ethan walked onto the stage. The lights were blinding. The applause was overwhelming. He found Lily in the crowd. She was standing clapping harder than anyone, her face glowing with pride. He reached the podium. The applause faded. 2,000 people waiting to hear what he had to say. A year ago, Ethan began his voice steady despite his nerves. "I was working as an EMT, making barely enough to support my daughter. I'd been blacklisted from my engineering career, labeled a troublemaker, a liar, someone who'd made up evidence to attack a powerful company." He paused. Let that sink in. But I hadn't lied. I'd told the truth. And the truth cost me everything. My career, my marriage, my reputation, years of my life spent just surviving, just getting by, wondering if standing up had been worth it. The auditorium was silent. Then one night, I pulled a woman from a wrecked car on the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. I shocked her heart back to life, and when the lights hit her face, I realized it was Alexandra Westbrook, the CEO who'd signed the papers that destroyed me. Ethan gripped the podium. In that moment, I had a choice. Let her die. Get the revenge I'd fantasized about for 3 years, or do my job. Save a life. Even if it was the life of someone who'd hurt me. He looked out at the crowd. I chose to save her. Not because I was noble, not because I'd forgiven her, but because saving lives is what I do. It's who I am. And I couldn't betray that. Not even for revenge. Murmurs rippled through the audience. What I didn't know was that saving her life would lead to exposing one of the largest corporate fraud cases in aerospace history. That it would put my daughter in danger. That it would force me to relive every painful moment of what I'd lost. That it would test everything I thought I knew about justice, forgiveness, and second chances. Ethan's throat tightened. We're here today because the Westbrook Safety Trust has helped 43 whistleblowers in its first year. 43 people who saw something wrong and spoke up. We've provided legal support, financial assistance, media training, and protection. We've helped expose fraud in medical devices, automotive safety, pharmaceutical testing, and construction. We've literally saved lives by giving people the courage and resources to tell the truth. The applause started. Ethan held up his hand. But saving a life doesn't end with a heartbeat. It doesn't end with winning a case or getting vindication. It begins with the systems we build, the choices we make when no one's watching, the courage to stand up even when standing up costs everything. He paused. Let the words settle. 3 years ago, I stood up. I lost everything, but I'd do it again. Because some things matter more than comfort, more than security, more than our own pain. Truth matters, justice matters, lives matter. The applause was louder now, building. And today, I'm proud to announce that the Westbrook Safety Trust is going global. We're partnering with organizations in 12 countries. We're creating a network that will protect whistleblowers worldwide. We're making it harder for companies to silence people who speak up. We're building the system I needed 3 years ago and didn't have. He looked at Lily. She was crying. Happy tears. Mrs. Chen had an arm around her. To everyone in this room who's fighting for truth, who's risking something to do what's right, who's scared but standing up anyway, you're not alone. We're here. We've got your back. And together we're going to change the world. The auditorium exploded. 2,000 people on their feet. Ethan stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed. As he walked off stage, he saw Alexandra slip into the back of the auditorium. She was still in her EMT uniform, hair pulled back, no makeup. She caught his eye and smiled. After the speech, Ethan was mobbed. People wanting to shake his hand, tell their stories, thank him for what he'd built. An engineer from Michigan who'd exposed safety violations at an auto plant. A nurse from Texas who'd reported medication errors. A teacher from California who'd blown the whistle on standardized test fraud. "You gave me hope," the teacher said. "When I saw what you went through and that you survived, that you won, I knew I could do it too." Ethan didn't know what to say to that. He just hugged her. An hour later, he finally escaped to a quiet corridor. Lily found him first. "Daddy, you were amazing." He picked her up even though she was getting too big for it. "You think so?" Everyone was crying. Mrs. Chen had to borrow tissues from the lady next to her. "What about you?" "I cried too." "I cried. But happy crying." "Because I'm proud of you." Ethan held her tight. "I'm proud of you too, Peanut, for being so brave this year, for handling everything. It was scary sometimes, when those bad men came to our house, when we had to hide." "I know. But we're okay now, right?" "We're better than okay." Alexandra appeared at the end of the corridor. She'd changed out of her uniform into a simple dress. She hesitated when she saw them. "I can come back," she said. "No, it's okay." Lily wriggled out of Ethan's arms. "Hi, Alexandra. Did you save someone today?" "Hi, Lily. Yeah, we did. A man having a diabetic emergency. He's going to be fine." "That's good. Daddy says saving people is the best job." "He's right." Lily looked between them. "I'm going to find Mrs. Chen. She promised me ice cream." After she left, Alexandra and Ethan stood in the corridor. The sounds of the conference echoed around them. "That was some speech," Alexandra said. "I meant every word." "I know. That's what made it powerful." She moved closer. "I'm sorry I missed it. We got the call right when I was about to leave." "That's the job." "Yeah," she smiled. "I'm learning that. 6 months in, and I finally understand what you meant about it being the best, worst job. My back hurts, my feet hurt, I smell like the ambulance, but today I saved a man's life. Actually saved him. Not from a boardroom, not through policy. With my hands, my training, my actions. How does it feel?" "Terrifying. Exhausting. Amazing." She paused. "Real. It feels real." They walked toward the reception hall. Music and conversation spilled out. People were celebrating, networking, building the movement. "I never thanked you properly," Alexandra said, "for what you said at the training academy about finding your reason, about holding on to what matters more than fear." "You found your reason." "I found a lot of things. Purpose, humility, understanding what actually matters, but seems." She stopped walking. "And I found forgiveness, not from you. That's not something I can ask for, but from myself. Learning to live with what I did, what I failed to do." Ethan turned to face her. "You saved 43 people this year by creating the trust. You've been working night shifts as an EMT. You testified against Bennett even when his lawyers tried to destroy you. You've more than made up for your mistakes." "Have I?" "Yeah, you have." She smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. Inside the reception, people kept approaching, congratulating Ethan, thanking Alexandra for her father's legacy, for the trust, for her courage. They handled it together, a team now, partners in something bigger than either of them. Lily was holding court near the dessert table, telling Mrs. Chen's grandson about the time federal agents had protected their house. Mrs. Chen kept trying to shush her, but Lily was on a roll. "That kid," Ethan said, shaking his head. "She's amazing. You've done an incredible job with her." "Most days I'm just making it up as I go. That's parenting." "You'd know," Alexandra laughed. "No, I know nothing about parenting, but I'm learning, slowly." Over the past 6 months, Alexandra had become part of their lives. Not intrusively, not trying to replace Sarah, but she'd shown up for Lily's school play, for pizza nights, for the times when Ethan was overwhelmed and needed someone who understood the weight of what they'd built. Sarah had visited twice. Awkward visits where she tried to reconnect with Lily and mostly just reminded everyone why she'd left. The second visit, she'd pulled Ethan aside. "I can't do this," she'd said. "I thought I could be part of her life again. But seeing you two, seeing how well you're doing without me, it hurts. And I don't know how to be the person she needs." "So you're leaving again?" I'm giving you full custody, no more shared arrangement. She's better off with you. We both know that. It had hurt Lily, but not as much as the constant uncertainty had. Now she knew. Her mom loved her but couldn't be present. And that was sad, but it was also clear. No more wondering. Daddy? Lily appeared beside him. Can Alexandra come over for movie night tomorrow? Ethan looked at Alexandra. You don't have to. I'd love to, Alexandra said. What are we watching? Something with dragons, Lily said confidently, and princesses, and maybe some explosions. Sounds perfect. The conference wound down around 9 p.m. Ethan walked Lily and Mrs. Chen to their car, then came back to help Alexandra with closing remarks. They stood on stage together, thanking everyone who'd come, who'd donated, who'd shared their stories. This is just the beginning, Alexandra told the crowd. The Westbrook Safety Trust will be here for as long as people need protection for doing the right thing, for as long as truth needs defending, for as long as voices need amplifying. Thank you for being part of this. Afterward, they stood in the empty auditorium. The cleaning crew was already working. The stage lights dimmed one by one. We did it, Ethan said. We did. A year ago, I was pulling you from a wrecked car, wondering if saving you was the right choice. Was it? Ethan thought about everything that had happened. The danger, the fear, the pain, but also the justice, the changes, the lives saved. Yeah, it was. They walked out together into the October night, the same month 1 year later. The air had that same crisp quality, but everything else was different. You want to grab coffee? Alexandra asked. I'm too wired to sleep. Yeah, okay. They found an all-night diner in DuPont Circle, sat in a booth that had probably been there since the 80s, ordered coffee that tasted like it had been brewed around the same time. Remember when you came to the hospital, Alexandra said. When I asked you to help investigate, you mean when you manipulated me into helping? Yeah, that. I was so scared, so desperate. I thought Bennett was going to get away with everything, that my father's death would go unanswered, that I'd spend the rest of my life knowing I'd been complicit. But you weren't complicit. You didn't know. I should have known. That's what haunts me. All the signs were there. I just didn't look hard enough, didn't ask the right questions. Was too comfortable in my position to challenge the people around me. Ethan sipped his terrible coffee. You're doing the work now. That's what matters. Is it? Can we ever really make up for the harm we caused, the lives lost? No, but we can make sure it doesn't happen again. We can protect the next person. Save the next life. That's all any of us can do. Alexandra was quiet for a moment. When did you forgive me? I'm not sure I have. Not completely. Sometimes I still see you across that boardroom table. Still hear you calling me a liar. Still feel what that did to my life. That's fair. But I also see you now. Working night shifts, helping people, building something that matters, and I think maybe forgiveness isn't an event. It's a process. And we're somewhere in the middle of it. That's more grace than I deserve. Probably. But you saved my life too. Not on a bridge, but by giving me a chance to prove I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't wrong, that standing up mattered. So maybe we're even. Alexandra smiled. I don't think we'll ever be even. But maybe we can be something else. Friends. Partners. People who survived something terrible together and came out better. I can work with that. They talked until 2 a.m. About the trust's expansion. About cases they were working on. About Alexandra's EMT training stories. About Lily's upcoming school project on heroes where she'd insisted on writing about my dad who saved everyone. She adores you, Alexandra said. I adore her. She's the best thing in my life. The only thing that kept me going when everything fell apart. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. When they finally left the diner, the city was quiet. Early morning workers starting their shifts. Delivery trucks making rounds. Life continuing its relentless forward motion. You need a ride? Ethan asked. I drove, but thanks. Alexandra hesitated. Movie night tomorrow? Should I bring anything? Just yourself and maybe low expectations. Lily's movie choices can be questionable. Noted. She started toward her car, then turned back. Ethan, Yeah, thank you for everything. For saving me that night, for not giving up, for showing me what real courage looks like. You did the same for me. Showed me my fight wasn't for nothing, that the truth mattered, that standing up was worth it. Then I guess we saved each other. Yeah, I guess we did. Movie night the next evening was chaos in the best way. Lily had indeed chosen something with dragons, princesses, and explosions. Alexandra arrived with popcorn and candy. Mrs. Chen came up to say hello and ended up staying for the whole movie. Lily fell asleep halfway through, curled up between Ethan and Alexandra. Mrs. Chen smiled at them over her knitting. You two are good together, she said quietly. Ethan and Alexandra exchanged glances. We're friends, Ethan said. Sure you are. Mrs. Chen's tone suggested she saw something they hadn't admitted yet. After the movie, after Mrs. Chen left and Ethan carried Lily to bed, Alexandra lingered at the door. This was nice, she said. Yeah, it was. Can we do it again sometime? Lily would be devastated if we didn't. Just Lily, Ethan smiled. No, not just Lily. Alexandra left smiling too. Over the next few months, movie nights became a tradition. Sometimes just the three of them, sometimes with Mrs. Chen, sometimes with other trust employees and their families, building a community of people who'd survived telling the truth. 6 months after the conference, Ethan got a call from the FAA. They wanted him to join their safety oversight board, help reform the system that had failed so catastrophically. It's a part-time position, the administrator said. You'd still run the trust, but we need people who understand what's at stake, who've lived the consequences of failures. Ethan accepted. A month after that, Alexandra got accepted into a paramedic training program. Advanced care, more responsibility. She was terrified and excited in equal measure. 2 years of training, she told Ethan. On top of working full-time, I must be crazy. You're committed. There's a difference. Will you help me study, like you helped with the EMT cert? Of course. They fell into a rhythm. Work, family, building the trust. Study sessions at Ethan's kitchen table while Lily did homework and asked impossible questions. Quiet moments that felt like healing. Like moving forward. Like building something new from the ruins of what had been broken. 1 year and 8 months after that night on the bridge, Ethan stood beside the Potomac River watching Lily skip rocks. Alexandra was beside him. The spring sun was warm. The water was high from recent rain. She's getting good at that, Alexandra said, watching Lily's rock skip 4 times before sinking. I taught her that. You taught her a lot of things. Courage, integrity, how to keep going when things are hard. I'm just doing my best. Your best is pretty amazing. They stood in comfortable silence. Lily ran back, her pockets full of more rocks. Alexandra, you try, she insisted. Alexandra took a rock. Threw it. It sank immediately. That was terrible, Lily said with complete honesty. I know. I'm better at saving lives than skipping rocks. Daddy, show her the technique. Ethan stepped behind Alexandra, guided her arm, showed her the angle. The flick of the wrist. She tried again. The rock skipped twice. Better, Lily cheered. They stayed until the sun started setting. Lily finally exhausted her rock supply. Mrs. Chen called to say she'd made too much dinner and insisted they all come over. Walking back to the car, Lily ran ahead. Ethan and Alexandra trailed behind. I never thought I'd have this, Alexandra said quietly. This feeling, like I'm part of something, like I belong. You do belong. In your life? Ethan stopped walking, looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who'd destroyed him, who'd fought beside him, who'd transformed herself through sheer determination and will. Yeah, he said, in my life, if you want to be. I want to be. I've wanted to be for a while. I just didn't know if... Ethan kissed her. Not dramatically. Not perfectly. Just a simple kiss that said what words couldn't. That forgiveness was possible, that second chances were real. That sometimes the person who hurt you could become the person who heals you. When they pulled apart, Lily was standing 20 feet away, her mouth open. I knew it, she shouted. Mrs. Chen owes me $5. You bet on us, Ethan called. She said you were just friends. I said you were in love. I was right. Alexandra laughed. She's not wrong. No, Ethan agreed. She's not. They caught up to Lily. She grabbed both their hands. Does this mean Alexandra's staying? She asked. If she wants to, Ethan said. I want to, Alexandra said. Good, because I like her. And you're happier when she's around. Lily swung their hands. Plus, she needs to learn how to skip rocks properly. That was embarrassing. At Mrs. Chen's apartment over dinner, that was indeed too much food, Ethan looked around the table. His daughter. His neighbor who'd become family. The woman who'd been his enemy and was now something he didn't have words for yet, but knew was right. This wasn't the life he'd imagined 3 years ago. Wasn't the life he'd thought he wanted. It was better, because he'd learned that saving a life doesn't end with a heartbeat. It begins with the choices you make afterward, the systems you build, the people you protect, the truth you defend. He'd saved Alexandra on that bridge, shocked her heart back to life. But she'd saved him too, given him back his purpose, his voice, his proof that standing up mattered. They'd saved each other. And in doing so, they'd built something that would save countless others. The Westbrook Safety Trust was helping hundreds of people, changing policies, reforming systems, making the world incrementally better. After dinner, walking back to his apartment, with Lily half asleep on his shoulder and Alexandra beside him, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Daddy, Lily mumbled. Are we happy now? Yeah, Peanut, we're happy. Good, you deserve it. Inside, he tucked Lily into bed. She was asleep before he finished the first page of their book. He kissed her forehead, turned off the light. Alexandra was standing in the living room looking at the photos on the wall. Lily's artwork. Ethan's engineering license restored and framed. A picture from the conference, evidence of a life rebuilt. Stay, Ethan said. She turned. Tonight, tomorrow, as long as you want. I want a long time. Then stay a long time. She smiled, crossed the room, took his hands. You saved me twice, she said quietly. Once on that bridge, and once from the person I used to be. The person who cared more about power than people. More about protecting the company than protecting lives. You saved yourself. I just gave you the chance. We saved each other. Let's keep doing that. Keep saving people. Keep building this. Keep moving forward. Together. Together. They stood in the small apartment, not perfect, not pain-free, but real and honest and earned through struggle and sacrifice and the hardest kind of courage. Outside the city continued its endless motion. Ambulances racing to emergencies, people working night shifts, lives being saved and lost and saved again. And in a small office downtown, the Westbrook Safety Trust's hotline stayed open. Ready for the next person who needed protection for telling the truth. The next whistleblower. The next person willing to stand up when standing up cost everything. Because Ethan had learned the most important lesson of all. Saving a life doesn't end with a heartbeat. It begins with the choice to act, to stand up, to tell the truth, to keep going even when everything says to quit. And sometimes, if you're lucky, the person you save becomes the person who saves you back. A second chance, earned the hard way, the kind that lasts.